I want to welcome you to the webinar entitled Doing Business with NASA Langley. My name is Harry Belvin. I'm the Deputy Director for the Office of Strategic Analysis and Communication and Business Development at NASA Langley Research Center. This webinar will be presented by Ms. Jennifer Vudez, one of our licensing specialists within our office. Our office is the focal point for technology transfer, partnership, and technology collaboration for Langley. When working with companies in technology transfer or development, we are always asked, how do the companies get started? We have different mechanisms that we use when partnering or collaborating with other companies or individuals. Jennifer will outline these mechanisms and explain how we can assist you in accelerating your needed technology solution or solutions for your technical challenges. If you have any questions during the presentation, please use the chat box and they will be answered at the end during our Q&A session. So with that, I would like to present Mrs. Jennifer Vudez.
Thank you, Harry. Good afternoon, everyone. As Harry said, my name is Jennifer Vudez, and I am a licensing specialist in the Tech Transfer Office here at NASA Langley Research Center. I know everybody has a very busy schedule, and I really wish I could be in the room with everyone and talk with everyone face-to-face, but hopefully this webinar will be interactive enough that you'll be able to learn something, and I really do encourage you to use the chat box to send in your questions, because I do really want to get to your questions at the end of today's talk, and if for some reason we don't get to your question and I'm not able to answer it today, we will certainly follow up with an email or a phone call, so I really want to encourage you to do that. I am so excited to be here with you today to tell you about different ways to partner with NASA Langley, and I'd like to start out by telling you a little bit about our center and hopefully get you excited about the technologies that we have to offer. We are located in Hampton, Virginia, and next year we will be celebrating our 100th anniversary. We are very proud of that, and if you find yourself in the Hampton, Virginia area next year, we will be hosting an open house on October 21st, 2017, so please take advantage of that and come see us. This is NASA Langley at a glance. Our center is one of 10 field centers across the United States, and here at NASA Langley, we have a yearly operating budget of about $900 million. We have about 3,500 employees, which includes civil servants as well as contractors, and we cover over 700 acres of space, which is about the size of Central Park. It's a very beautiful center that perhaps one day you can visit. We have 156 buildings that house our labs and our wind tunnels. So we're going to dive right in, and I'm going to give you the best resource possible to finding a technology at NASA Langley, and that is the website that you see there. Each center has its own expertise, but because of our contributions, NASA Langley's contributions to NASA's overall mission in aeronautics, science, space technology, and human exploration, our intellectual property tends to fall into the following categories that you see here: advanced materials, aerospace applications, sensors, detectors, software, and simulation. So I encourage you, as you think about your business, to please visit the website that you see here, technologygateway.nasa.gov. Here you will be able to search through 300 different technology patents or pending patents based on keywords, and it will serve as your best resource to determine what NASA has to offer. If for some reason you do find yourself searching keywords and you don't see something that automatically comes up with us having some sort of IP, please still do contact our office, because just because a keyword doesn't bring something up for you doesn't mean that we don't have intellectual property pertaining to one of your technology interests. You'll also notice a secondary website at the bottom of the page, and that covers all of the technologies at the 10 field centers, not just NASA Langley, but the other centers who have different expertise across the U.S. so please be sure to visit both pages. So what do we have to offer? I've already spoke about a large volume of intellectual property. NASA also offers special facility testing as well as subject matter experts. Our subject matter experts are our researchers and our inventors that oftentimes people are very surprised to find out they can get time to talk to these inventors, face-to-face meetings, on-the-phone meetings, and these opportunities, this IP, our special facilities, our subject matter experts are opportunities that you, as a small business owner, business development manager, or other non-NASA entity can take advantage of. You may find yourself needing specialized testing that can only be done here. We can set up a partnership to give you access to those labs. You may find a NASA technology that may augment a current business line and need time to pick the inventor's brain, and that scenario can be arranged as well. These are just a couple examples of how you can partner with NASA. This is a bit of an eye chart, but I wanted to use it just to give you an example of the current partnerships that we are engaged in. And the main point that I wanted to make here was that we have partnerships across the board, including, obviously, U.S. industry, international organizations, academia, as well as other government agencies. So feel free to find your favorite logo there. Okay, so partner mechanisms that we have available. I talked about using NASA facilities, NASA intellectual property, and/or receiving help from subject matter experts. And so how does this all happen? Generally by using one of the tools you see here listed. NASA has the authority to use what's called Space Act Agreements. And by the end of this webinar, you will be tired of hearing me say Space Act Agreement. So get accustomed to this term. I'll talk much more about Space Act Agreements in the coming charts. NASA also has the authority to enter into CRADAs, which are very similar to Space Act Agreements. We do have an SBIR STTR program, a software usage program through the use of software usage agreements, and finally, technology licensing. As a company, you can license NASA's technology to commercialize it, and that's what we want to see. We want to see you succeed, and we have several tools to help you do all of that, all of which I will talk about. These are the different types of Space Act Agreements. Space Act Agreements are unique to NASA, and you will not find them in any other federal agency. They are primarily used to advance NASA's missions and program objectives by bringing NASA's assets and expertise together with a partner's core competency to benefit those parties. Reimbursable agreements. These are agreements where NASA's costs associated to the activity are reimbursed by the agreement partner, either in full or in part. NASA undertakes reimbursable agreements when it has unique goods, services, and facilities that are not currently being fully utilized to accomplish mission needs. Non-reimbursable agreements. These are agreements that involve NASA and one or more agreement partners in a mutually beneficial activity that furthers the agency's missions. But unlike reimbursable agreements, each partner bears the cost of its participation and no funds are exchanged between the parties. So NASA comes to the table with its resources, the partner comes to the table with its resources, and an agreement is made such that things are done in kind and, like I said, no funds are exchanged. We do execute Space Act agreements with both domestic and foreign entities. So again, this is an eye chart, but you will have the chance to have a copy of these charts, I believe, after the webinar is finished. But this is the information that is required to get a Space Act agreement in place. So where do you start, and how do you even know if you need a Space Act agreement? The short answer is that you start with our office, and our contact information will be given to you at the end of this presentation. But in the meantime, this is a comprehensive chart of the types of things that you will be asked to help complete the Space Act Agreement. So, number one, you will need a title. You'll need a title that will encompass what the work will be about. You'll need a NASA technical point of contact. Obviously, the partner information will be included, a description of the proposed activity. Excuse me. 5 and 6 is where we spend a lot of time hammering out what are NASA's responsibilities going to be, what are the partners' responsibilities are going to be. We have a schedule, we set milestones, as well as a period of performance. NASA's financial commitments are outlined. Number 9 is where I talked about anytime there would be subject matter expert, researcher or inventor's time needed. This would be where their time would be reimbursed if it's a reimbursable agreement to NASA, as well as any labs used. Excuse me. Sorry, you can tell this is live. 10, we'll look for a mission directorate that will benefit from the work. There will be a description of how it supports that work, in particular NASA mission. And then other information, if it's applicable, will be about data rights, intellectual property considerations, any other restrictions such as ITAR or classified work considerations, property management, and whether any equipment will be loaned from NASA, and also a description of how the NASA goods, services, and facilities to be committed are unique and not otherwise available on the U.S. commercial market. This is the life of a Space Act Agreement. You see there in Phase 1 is the development. This is where we create the Space Act Agreement and basically go through the steps that I just listed on the previous chart. Phase 2, we work up a good draft and we have it reviewed by NASA and our legal department, and we concur on the draft, and we send it over to the partner, and we give you a chance to do the same thing. You review and concur, and you see the green arrow there in the middle of the chart going back and forth. This is where a lot of the negotiation between NASA and the partner happens with the draft, and so that each party can be satisfied with what goes into the Space Act Agreement. Finally, we go to signatures, and once we have signatures, then it's considered executed. I mentioned CRADAs earlier because a lot of people who have worked with other federal government agencies are familiar with CRADAs. And I only mention this because while NASA has the authority to enter into CRADAs, it is done very rarely. Instead, as I've mentioned, we use Space Act Agreements. If you are familiar with CRADAs and want to work with NASA, think Space Act Agreements instead. Okay, changing gears a little bit to licensing. Another tool that often goes hand in hand with Space Act Agreements are licenses. When a new invention is determined to have significant commercial value and technical viability, NASA will pursue a patent. Excuse me. These inventions are what we license to industry, both domestic and foreign. It is through licensing that NASA technologies become marketable and commercializable and become available to the consumer, and that's why we need you. This is another we call logo chart to give you an idea of who we have current licenses with. This is just an example to let you know that we have licenses from small to mid to large size companies, universities. Again, you can pick your favorite logo here and maybe see your own company on a chart like this in the future. We have different types of licenses. A standard commercial license allows the non-NASA entity access to the technology, to test the technology, and implement it into a system, a service, or a product that may result in sales. I've already mentioned that we grant licenses to domestic as well as foreign entities. Licenses can be negotiated to be exclusive, partially exclusive, or non-exclusive. That simply defines the level of treatment your particular field of use receives. For example, if NASA has an energy harvester technology, which we do, hint, hint, and you're in the business of selling Fitbits, which are very popular watches, you may want exclusivity in the field of watches. All of this is negotiated. We also offer other types of licenses, the startup license and the evaluation license. Our startup license program is relatively new, and it is only available to U.S. companies on a non-exclusive basis. The big advantage here, especially to small businesses, to startups, is that there are no upfront costs. So normally when we sign a commercial license, there would be an upfront cost, as well as annual minimum fees. But with the startup license, there's no upfront costs and no annual minimum fees for the first 3 years. The first bullet that says that it is available to companies formed with the express intent of commercializing a NASA technology is true, and I want to put a caveat on that bullet, and that is, if you have a business that is less than 12 months old, that was not necessarily started with the express intent of commercializing a NASA technology, and you decide to change gears and focus on that NASA technology, I'm letting you in on a little secret. As long as you are less than 12 months old, you can take advantage of a startup license. The evaluation license is just what it says. It's for evaluation purposes. So you can get the technology in your hands, try it before you buy it, make sure that it's going to fit your need. You can test it, you can do anything you want except for sell it. We normally put evaluation licenses in place for 1 to 2 years. They are all non-exclusive, and there's a one-time fee of $2,500. Talked about how to search Langley's technologies on the Technology Gateway website. It's also on this website where you can find all the information you need to get a license started. For any type of license that I've talked about, you will need to submit an application. The amount of information you provide depends on the type of license that you are seeking. And here you will see some examples of the information you need to provide. So just like I spoke of earlier, how do you know if you need a Space Act agreement? How do you know what type of Space Act agreement? How do you know what type of license that you might want to enter into? All of these questions can be answered by contacting our office, and we are happy to work with you to get answers to these questions. This is the overall licensing process, just sort of a summary chart of everything that I've already talked about. First, it's very important that you find the technology that fits your business need. Next, as I've mentioned, you contact our office and we'll talk about it. And this is the step that usually includes me or someone in the office scheduling time with the inventor and with the business person to have a chance to talk about the technology, ask questions, and to get clarification on the technology that you propose to license. Next, you will submit an application and wait for our office to review it. If it is acceptable, we will notify you and begin to negotiate a draft license. If there is something that might be missing in your application, then we'll certainly notify you and ask you for that information. We're not going to just take your application and never speak to you again. So you will hear from us if we have questions and let you know where your application stands. We negotiate the license, and then once we come to an agreement, it's signed, and then there's a fully executed license in place. All of this activity can take anywhere from days to weeks to months. It just all depends on the negotiation process and how long all of that takes. Again, changing gears a little bit, software usage agreements. I wanted you to be aware that we do have these agreements available that can allow you to use our software. NASA Langley in particular has a large portfolio of software. You will see the website where you can search all of the software there on the third bullet. A lot of our software is open source, and some of our software is patented and require a license. I also mentioned earlier that NASA has an SBIR and STTR program. I just wanted to bring this to your attention as well. This might also be attractive to small businesses. We do issue a call annually, and for further information for these programs, you'll see the website listed at the bottom of the chart. Finally, I wanted to provide you with our contact information. You see there our physical address, as well as a phone number and an email. And I just wanted to say that even though the email is not associated with a particular name, making it a little bit more personal, our office, we all do get these emails, and we read them, and we certainly respond to them. So if you have any questions at all from today's presentation, or any other questions about something that I did not cover that you're curious about, please don't hesitate to give us a call or send an email. And with that, I think we're going to take questions.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer. We're going to answer some of the questions that we received in the chat box now. Don't worry, we're also keeping a log of the questions. So if there's something that we can't answer, or you think of later, or you type in and we don't get to it during this time period, we'll be answering those in the next few days by email. And also, we've also planned on sending out these charts that she's presented to everyone through email following the presentation for the folks that registered. So that may answer one of the questions going on now. So one of the questions I see there now, Jennifer, is, will LARC grant exclusivity for a particular technology?
Yes. So the short answer is yes. And it depends on the application that we receive from the business. As a part of the application, a business plan will be required, and in that business plan, basically, the applicant will outline the proposed technology, what they propose to use the technology for, what the current market is, and the potential proposed field of use. Once we review the field of use and make sure it fits into our criteria, we will certainly grant an exclusive license. While we do mostly non-exclusive licenses, because we do like to get our technologies distributed as widely as possible, we do grant exclusive licenses. They are negotiated on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, thanks. We have another question. Does software licensing typically involve a fee?
The majority of our software is open source, so no, there is no fee that is associated with that. Now, if we do have any protection on any type of software, it is treated like a license. So there may be a fee that goes with software that is patented. So if there's a particular software that is of interest, then I would encourage those persons to contact our office to find out if it's indeed open source and or covered by some sort of patenting. So.
Okay, thanks. Question 3, does just consulting with a subject matter expert require a full SAA to be negotiated?
No. So here at NASA Langley, we operate on the general rule of thumb that a potential licensee can interact with inventors for about 8 hours, 8 free hours. So you can take advantage of those hours by holding telecons, by visiting our center and receiving a tour of the lab or whatever is applicable that you're interested in. It's normally past about the 8-hour mark that our inventors and researchers are super fully subscribed to the NASA mission, and that's when we need to put a Space Act agreement in place when the work and the activity needs more collaboration and more time. But again, the Space Act agreements are negotiated on a case-by-case basis, and it really depends on the need and how much, quote, help is needed from the NASA inventor. So there's not always a Space Act agreement in place just to collaborate with the NASA inventor.
Okay, thanks. Question 4, and I'll take this one. If we have a unique application development capability, how can we show and demo that to your team? Well, that really depends on the capability. What I would recommend is you contact us at the contact information there on the last slide, and then we would be able to pull the proper people together that your capability or application is related to, because it really will determine what that application or capability is related to. Another question, what is the procedure to do business from a company that is not based or established in the U.S.? Jennifer, do you want to handle that one? International agreements?
Sure. Yeah. So thank you, Harry. Right, international agreements. So our international agreements are executed out of NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C., but the centers facilitate that process. So you would contact our office first and let us know what is the interest, and then from there we can determine how we may put together some sort of an agreement, and it would go through our NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C., which is a little bit different than domestic companies where the agreements are done here locally at the center. But you can start, again, with the contact information that we've posted here and contact our office.
Okay, we have another one, partnership with companies. Is the partnership apparatus different if the company is a non-profit?
No. The partnership apparatus is not different for a nonprofit. Space Act agreement would probably still be the tool that would be used in that situation.
Okay, and Space Act agreements are very tailorable too. So the big thing would be is to contact our office, and we could figure out together based on what the activity is, on what mechanism to best use.
Correct, yes.
Question 7, would NASA purchase new raw materials such as carbon fiber and epoxies, and who do we contact? We typically do purchase raw materials when we're doing testing or fabricating components. We have a list of companies that we talk to, or we put it out on bid. Sometimes it goes out on the BizOps magazine. I think really the procurement group here at Langley would be the people to talk to. I'm not sure if we have their contact information in the backup slides or not. Do we, Jennifer?
The procurement information, do we have that? Oh.
Oh, okay, there it is. Yeah, so those are the slide that is up right now. NASA Langley procurement site would be the ones that you would go to talk about how to get on that list for Langley to purchase different materials or components or things that a company develops or makes.
And if I could just do a go back as far as international collaborations, I wanted to be clear that you need to contact the center first. Don't contact NASA headquarters. We will work through NASA headquarters. I probably was a little bit confusing on my answer, but the answer is even if it's an international company, please contact our office first.
Okay, we also had another question that came in. Are there other NASA centers, such as Houston or JSC, offering the same business services as Langley, or is Langley the central contact center? No, each center itself has its own innovation-like office, like ours. It may be called something different, but they do have an office there that actually works with companies and partnerships and things of that nature. So if you went to their specific website, you should be able to find what you're looking for if you think that your application or your capability is more related to another center. One of the best things to do, though, is contact us first, because if it is something that we don't typically do, we can direct you in the proper direction on which center to look at, whether it's Glenn Research Center, JSC, or Kennedy, or such like that. Let's see. I think that's all we have time for today. Like I mentioned before, we did take a log of all the questions, so if we didn't get to your question today, we're going to answer it and send it out into the email that the question came from. So we also log that as you were in the chat box. And once again, we will be sending out these charts to everyone following us logging off, everybody that registered for the presentation. And I would like to thank you again for attending and learning how to work with NASA Langley in the future. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you.